Alrighty, guys, we just talked about how Fantastic Four was a return to peak Marvel. Let's talk about a different project, though. Let's talk about the DCU. Let's talk about Superman. Let's talk in contrast to Fantastic Four, which is, I think, revitalizing a franchise. Let's talk about Superman, which is launching a franchise, launching a universe, really. And to me, Superman had a Herculean task in front of it. Superman had the task of needing to set up an entirely new universe in one fell swoop. And I'm going to make the argument, in my opinion at least, why I think it succeeded. Not necessarily because of this task, because I do think that if you go and watch my review for Superman, you'll know that, maybe some of the world building stuff, to me, the most impactful parts of Superman were not the world building and was not the crazy kaiju battles and things like that. To me, the best parts of Superman were the parts about him and his parents. Both the parts with his Kryptonian parents, and we're going to talk about some spoilers here for Superman, so if you haven't seen it, be warned. But both the parts with his Kryptonian parents, and also the parts with his Earth parents, in particular, with Pa Kent and Ma Kent. I think that scene at the farm was perhaps the best in the film, and we're gonna get into that. But to me, right before we get into any of that, the context behind all of this is that Superman had a Herculean task. Superman had to set up an entirely new universe from scratch, and to say, this is the new DC universe, and these are the new characters, these are the new rules, this is the new operating procedure. In fact, it had to do so with a universe that wasn't necessarily similar to ours. It was completely different than our own universe. And so, in that light, right, setting up Superman having to set up all the metahumans and having to set up all the different the different aspects of the universe, the fact that metahumans are just such a normal part of whatever's going on in this universe, it had to do all of that. And it did so, it started to do so in the first few minutes of the opening crawl. And I think that it's just, it has to be, it cannot be overstated how difficult that is, right? How difficult of a task that is to need to really shoulder that responsibility. And while I think that some of the parts of Superman, I wasn't super, like, my favorite parts were not Guy Gardner, even though I enjoyed him, or Mr. Terrific, even though I enjoyed him, or all the allusions to the Justice Gang and whatnot. I thought that they worked well enough that you were excited to see where this universe goes. And to me, I've always been making this argument. Right? Robert Pattinson's Batman, whether or not he could or should or whatnot, be in the DCU, I don't think it's a good idea, because what the DCU has set up is a completely different conception of the Superman facing off or teaming up with a very different kind of Batman. And I don't think that this Gotham City that's being set up in the Batman universe would fit with this universe of metahumans and Justice Gang and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that Superman succeeds, insofar as being the template for all the things moving forward with pocket universes. And now Peacemaker is going to set that all up, and we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But like I said before, I think the point of this, right, the point of what I'm saying here is that Superman succeeds because it sets up a universe, but its sole focus is not setting up the universe, right? I think that nothing exemplifies this more than that scene where Clark and Lois, or Superman is talking to Lois in front of the window. There's, the Justice Gang is dealing with this random alien thing. And to me, that sets up so many things, right? It's showing that, the aliens and weird kaiju monsters and whatnot are there and present in the DCU. But and they're being taken care of by the Justice Gang, but also that Superman is more focused and intent on the personal relationships. And like I said, I think that the familial relationships, the relationships between Pa Kent, Ma Kent, and Superman are the most impactful in this movie. And I think that Superman succeeds in setting up a universe because it succeeds in setting up Superman. And that's really, to me, the argument here, is that Superman had a Herculean task in front of it of being the first movie in the DCU. And again, I know Creature Commandos, but Creature Commandos to me was really more a successor to the DCEU, in my opinion, compared to Superman. And I think that Superman succeeds because it's able to take care of its characters and to say, this is a Superman that I think we can get on board with. This is a Superman that you care about him and his relationships with his parents and with Lois Lane. And all the world building is a backdrop to all of that. Because again, we've seen with films like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We've seen it, where films try so hard to do world building and yet fail because they're so hyper-focused on doing that instead of taking care of the story and the characters at hand. So I wanted to make this segment also because we're talking about Fantastic Four First Steps. And I think that Superman again, there was a worst case scenario in which James Gunn really just dived into world building for 2 hours and didn't really care about his characters, which he doesn't really do, right? He set up the Guardians of the Galaxy super well. And so I think that's an encouraging thing going forward. And I hope other films in the DCU are now able to play in this playground that we've set up here. I really do hope so. So guys, what do you think about this? Do you think that the world building in Superman was successful, or do you think that it could have been done better? Let me know in the comments down below.